My girlfriend said, "You're not my dad, stop questioning where I go," before leaving for a friend's house at 2 a.m. I said, "You're an adult." What she didn't expect was seeing me at the same nightclub she was at an hour later. The look on her face when she saw me with my actual friends. There's a certain kind of quiet that settles into a home when one person has checked out of the relationship but hasn't yet bothered to leave the building. It's the silence of two people coexisting in separate orbits. A silence punctuated only by the click of a phone, locking, or the soft rustle of someone getting dressed to go somewhere you're not invited. For the last 6 months, that silence had been the primary soundtrack of my life. My girlfriend, Maya, and I used to be the couple that other people hated. We were disgustingly in sync. We finished each other's sentences. We liked the same weird foreign films. We had a whole universe of inside jokes. I'm a graphic designer, a homebody by nature. My idea of a perfect night is a new project on my tablet, a good album playing, and the person I love on the couch next to me. For 3 years, that person was Maya, and it was perfect. But somewhere along the line, the signal got lost. It started subtly. The girls' nights became more frequent and started lasting until 4 in the morning. When I'd ask who she was with, the answers became vague. It wasn't Sarah and Jen. It was just some people from work. She started guarding her phone like it was a state secret, angling the screen away from me whenever a text came in. The shared universe of our relationship began to shrink until it was just me, sitting on the couch alone, wondering where she was. My friend saw it, of course. "She's walking all over you, man," my friend Chris told me over a beer one night. "You're a doormat." I defended her, naturally. I made excuses. "She's just stressed from work. She's young. She needs to have fun." I was in love, and love is a powerful anesthetic. It numbs you to the pain of 1,000 tiny cuts. The night it all ended was a Friday. I had cooked her favorite meal, a ridiculously complicated pasta dish that took 2 hours to make. I thought maybe we could have a real night together, reconnect, watch one of those weird movies we both loved. She came home late from work, took one look at the dinner I'd made, and said, "Oh, I'm not hungry." I grabbed something with the girls. She then spent the next 4 hours on the couch, not next to me, but at the far end, texting furiously, a small secret smile on her face. I didn't say anything. I just cleaned up the untouched pasta, my heart feeling like a lead weight in my chest. I went to bed around midnight. I was just drifting off when the sound of her closet door opening woke me up. I opened my eyes. In the dim light from the hallway, I could see her getting dressed, pulling on jeans and a black top I hadn't seen before. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. I sat up. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice quiet. She jumped, startled. She hadn't realized I was awake. She turned, and her face was a mask of annoyance. "Out," she said, her voice sharp. "Out where?" "It's 2 in the morning." "To a friend's house," she snapped, pulling a brush through her hair with angry, jerky movements. "Sarah's having a hard time. She needs me." The lie was so lazy, so insultingly transparent. I knew for a fact that Sarah, her supposed best friend, was out of town visiting her parents. I had seen the pictures on social media just that afternoon. My first instinct was to call her on it, to present the evidence, to have the fight we should have had months ago. But I was just so tired. Tired of the lies. Tired of the excuses. Tired of feeling like a detective in my own home. "Maya, can you just be honest with me for once?" I asked, my voice pleading. "Where are you really going?" She whirled around, her eyes flashing with the cold fire I had come to know all too well. And then she delivered the line that would serve as the epitaph for our entire relationship. "You're not my dad," she said, her voice dripping with contempt. "Stop questioning where I go." The words hit me harder than a physical slap. It wasn't just the disrespect. It was the framing of it. My concern, my desire for a shred of honesty, was being twisted into something ugly and controlling. I wasn't her partner asking for respect. I was a paternalistic authority figure trying to police her. It was a perfectly crafted, soul-crushing insult. And in that moment, the anesthetic of love finally wore off. I felt every single one of those 1,000 tiny cuts at once. I looked at her, at this beautiful stranger standing in our bedroom, and I felt the last bit of fight drain out of me. She was right. I wasn't her dad, and I was done acting like it. You're an adult, I said, my voice flat and empty. I lay back down and turned my face to the wall. I heard her hesitate for a second. She had expected a fight. My sudden, quiet surrender was not part of her script. But the moment passed. I heard her grab her purse, and then the soft click of the apartment door closing behind her. She was gone. I lay there in the dark, staring at the wall, the silence of the room pressing in on me. But this time, it was different. It wasn't the heavy, anxious silence of waiting. It was the clean, empty silence of an ending. She had given me my walking papers. She had drawn a line in the sand and told me I was on the wrong side of it. And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. I got out of bed. I paced the living room, the city lights twinkling through the window. My mind was racing. She was right. I wasn't her dad. I was her boyfriend, her partner, and she was treating me like an obstacle. And I had been letting her. For months, my life had revolved around her schedule, her moods, her lies. I had stopped seeing my friends, stopped pursuing my own hobbies. My world had shrunk to the size of this apartment. And most nights, I was the only one in it. I picked up my phone. I scrolled through my contacts, past all the work clients and family members, until I got to my old group chat with my college friends. The chat was called The Degenerates, and it used to be a constant stream of memes, jokes, and weekend plans. My contributions over the last year had been pitifully sparse. Can't make it, guys. Sorry. Have plans. Rain check. I looked at the last few messages from that night. Chris, Mike, and Dan. They were out somewhere downtown. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. It felt like a monumental decision, like stepping off a cliff. What was I even doing? Was I going out to try and catch her? To have some big, dramatic confrontation in a public place? No. That wasn't it. The thought of even seeing her right now made me feel sick. This wasn't about her. This had to be about me. It was about remembering who I was before my life became a waiting room. With a sense of reckless abandon I hadn't felt in years, I typed a message. You guys out tonight? The reply was almost instantaneous, from Chris. The ghost speaks. We thought you were legally dead. Yeah, man. We're at the Velvet Room. Get down here. The Velvet Room. One of the biggest, loudest nightclubs downtown. The kind of place I hadn't set foot in since I was 25. The kind of place Maya would never think I would go to. A slow smile spread across my face. On my way, I typed. Getting ready felt like a strange ritual of rediscovery. I pushed past Maya's overflowing collection of clothes in the closet and dug out a shirt I hadn't worn in years. It was a little tight, but it felt good. I looked at myself in the mirror. The sad, tired guy who had been moping around this apartment for months was gone. In his place was someone who looked awake. There was a nervous energy buzzing under my skin. A feeling that was equal parts terror and exhilaration. I drove downtown. The music in my car turned up loud for the first time in forever. I found a parking spot. The bass from the club audible even from a block away. Walking up to the line, I felt a pang of anxiety. What was I doing? This was crazy. But then I remembered the look of contempt on Maya's face, her words echoing in my head. You're not my dad. No, I wasn't. I was a 32-year-old man who was about to go have a drink with his friends. It was the most normal thing in the world. I found them at a booth in the back, a half-empty pitcher of beer on the table. The moment they saw me, their faces broke into huge grins. No way. Mike yelled over the music, standing up to give me a hug that almost cracked a rib. He lives. We were about to send a search party. The reunion was incredible. It was easy. It was familiar. The conversation flowed effortlessly. A mix of old inside jokes and catching up on the last year of our lives. They asked about Maya, and for the first time, I didn't make excuses. It's complicated, I said. I think it might be over. They didn't press. They just nodded, a silent, shared understanding passing between them. They had known all along. For the next hour, I didn't think about Maya once. I was too busy laughing at Chris's terrible jokes, arguing with Dan about sports, and remembering what it felt like to just be a person among his people. I felt like I had resurfaced after being underwater for a very long time. The air was fresh and clean. It was during a lull in the conversation as I was looking out over the swirling, chaotic mass of the dance floor that I saw her. The club was dark, lit by strobing, colored lights, but I would have recognized her anywhere. She was in the middle of the crowd, laughing, her head thrown back. And she wasn't alone. She was with a group of people I'd never seen before, and she was dancing with a tall, handsome guy, her body pressed close against his. Her hands were on his shoulders, and his were low on her waist. It was intimate. It was undeniable. And it was clear that this was not the first time they had danced like this. This was not a friend's house. A wave of cold, hard certainty washed over me. It wasn't even anger. It was just confirmation. The final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. My gut hadn't been wrong. My insecurity had been a perfectly functioning alarm system. My first instinct was to turn away, to pretend I hadn't seen her. My second instinct was to walk over there and cause the ugliest scene imaginable. I did neither. I just watched for a moment, an objective observer watching the final act of a play. And then I turned back to my friends. Another round? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. They looked at me, then followed my gaze out to the dance floor. They saw her. They saw the guy. Their expressions hardened. "You want to get out of here, man?" Chris asked, his voice low. "No," I said, shaking my head. "I'm not gonna let her ruin my night. I'm here to see you guys. Let's have another beer." And so we did. I made a conscious decision in that moment. I was not going to hide. I was not gonna run. I was not here to spy on her. I was here to live my own life. And my life at that moment involved having a beer with my best friends. I laughed at their stories. I told a few of my own. I was present. I was happy. And I think that, more than anything else, was the real revenge. It took her about 20 minutes to spot me. I saw the exact moment it happened. She was laughing at something the guy had said. And her eyes swept across the room, probably looking for the bar. And then they landed on our booth. On me. Her smile vanished. Her entire body went rigid. The look on her face was a spectacular, multi-act play of cascading emotions. First, there was pure, unadulterated shock. It was the look of a ghost seeing a person. I was not supposed to be here. In her world, I was at home, sleeping, being the sad, predictable chump she had left behind. Then came the panic. Her eyes darted from me to the guy she was with, then back to me. The gears were turning. The lies were catching up with her. She was caught. Red-handed. Then a flash of righteous indignation. How dare I be here? How dare I invade her space? How dare I be, smiling? And finally, as her eyes took in the whole scene, me, not alone, but surrounded by my friends, laughing, holding a beer, looking completely unbothered, came the horror. This was the one scenario her script had not accounted for. I wasn't the pathetic, controlling dad waiting at home. I was a man with his own life. A life that was currently, visibly, proceeding just fine without her. The power dynamic of our entire relationship inverted in that single, silent moment. She wasn't the free spirit escaping her boring boyfriend. She was just a liar who had been caught. She immediately detached herself from the guy and started making a beeline for our table, weaving through the crowd with a look of grim determination. My friends tensed up. "Here we go," Mike muttered. She arrived at our booth, her face a thundercloud. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice a harsh whisper. I took a slow sip of my beer before answering. "I'm out with my friends," I said calmly. "What are you doing here?" "I thought you were at Sarah's house, consoling her." We decided to come out." She stammered, her eyes flicking nervously towards the dance floor. "Last minute." "That's funny," I said, my voice still quiet. "Because Sarah's in Vermont, she posted pictures of the snow this afternoon." The color drained from her face. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She had no more lies left. "Look," I said, standing up. I didn't want to have this conversation in front of my friends. I led her a few feet away to a slightly quieter spot near the wall. "What do you want, Maya?" I asked. What do I want? What do you want? Are you following me? She hissed. I almost laughed. You have a very high opinion of your own importance, I said. No, I'm not following you. I'm doing what you told me to do. I'm stopping. I'm not questioning where you go. I'm living my own life. It just so happens that tonight, my life brought me here. The real question is, what were you doing? It's not what it looks like, she said, falling back on the oldest cliché in the book. It looks like you lied to me, I said. It looks like you're cheating on me. And it looks like you expected me to be at home, waiting for you. Like a good little boy. But you were wrong. You're an adult, Maya. You can do whatever you want. And it turns out, so can I. I looked over her shoulder at the guy she'd been with, who was now watching us with a confused expression. You should probably get back to your friend, I said. He looks lonely. I turned and walked back to my booth, leaving her standing there, speechless and exposed. I sat down. My friends were all looking at me. You okay? Dan asked. I'm great, I said, and I was surprised to find that it was the absolute truth. I felt lighter than I had in years. We stayed for another hour. We talked, we laughed, and I didn't look in her direction again. Eventually, I saw her and her group leave. She shot one last, venomous look at our table before she disappeared out the door. I went home later that night, alone. The apartment was quiet, but it was a peaceful quiet. It was the silence of a space that was finally, truly mine. The next morning, she came back. She tried to apologize. She cried. She said it was a mistake, that she was confused, that the guy meant nothing to her. But the words were meaningless. They were just the desperate sounds of a person who had been caught, who had lost control of the narrative. I listened patiently until she was done. I'm glad you had fun last night, I said, my voice gentle. I did too. I saw my friends. I remembered who I am when I'm not waiting for you to come home. And I like that person. I think I'm gonna spend more time with him. I had already packed her things. Her bags were waiting by the door. She stared at them and then at me, and finally she seemed to understand. It was really over. There were no more lies to tell, no more manipulations to perform. She left without another word. I watched her go, and I didn't feel sadness or anger. I just felt quiet. The quiet of a chapter closing. The quiet of a bridge that was no longer connecting me to a place I didn't want to be. I picked up my phone. There was a new message in the Degenerates group chat. Same time next week. I smiled. Definitely. I typed back. And I knew I would be there.